Hello and welcome to my shop. My name is Bert Delisle. I'm with the Edmonton Woodturners Guild, and this little video is going to show how a process that I use to make a napkin holder. This nice little treen project has approximately a 6-inch base, has a little cup holder more or less on the bottom here to hold the napkins, a little stem, and the top is slotted to hold napkins. And it keeps it from the napkins blowing around on your patio. So basically you would take a napkin, you would fold it in half, and sometimes if they're really thin you fold another 1/4 inch edge on here, and you would slide it in the slots, and there you go. And you just go around and put the slots all the way around. I think this one's got room for 12 napkins. You set that on the middle of your table and your patio, and the wind doesn't blow the napkins around, and people can just pick them off as they need them. And yeah, it's kind of a nice little treen project. Anyway, without further ado, we'll go ahead and explain the process of what we're doing here. So basically we start with a set of blanks. I make my blanks roughly 5.5 to 6 inches. The base blank is usually I try to do 2 inch or 1.5 to 2 inches thick and about 6 inches in diameter. The top piece can be nominal 4 or 3/4 stock, 1/4 stock, or 4/4 stock. Basically anything you have handy. 3/4 of an inch will work at the end. It's just a little thinner, but they still work. You'll need a little square of roughly 3/4 by 3/4, and the length is 5 3/4 inches on the one piece. And the other one is the same square, but it's only 5 inches. So those two blocks. And for the little cup section on the stand between the base and the top, just a block of wood, roughly 2.5 inches square by whatever length. It's just a small offcut, and we'll shape it to be the cone, either cross grain or end grain. Your choice. It's whatever the wood will let you do with it. So to start with, we'll mount this on the chuck by drilling a 3/8 hole, and I'll mount this on a woodworm screw, and then I'll finish the bottom flat and I'll put a recess for mounting in the chuck on the very bottom. So I'll turn the side round, flatten off the bottom, put a recess in, and I'll completely finish this piece on the bottom and on the circumference first, and that'll be stage 1. That'll be done. Then when we have that done, we remount it in the chuck. We'll drill whatever spigot hole that we want to mount this on. I normally go 3/4 of an inch hole, about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch deep, and then on the napkin retainer, I turn it round, and I'll put a tenon on one end and fit it to the hole. Once I have that fitted to the hole, then I'll go ahead and shape this the way I want the outside to be shaped. Then I'll grab this end chuck on a 3/4 inch tenon, and I'll shape the inside to a 45-degree cone. And I'll drill in on the center a 3/8 of an inch hole in the center of the cone. Next step is I'll take the 5 3/4 inch piece, and I'll turn it round, and I'll turn a 3/8 tenon on the bottom, and about 3/8 to 1/2 an inch long, and then I'll taper the round edge where it tapers down to the tenon to 45 degrees, so that it will match up with the 45 degree of the napkin cone. And then I'll shape this however I feel, whatever I feel for the day. It can be straight, I can put some beads on it, a little onion shape, whatever. That's totally random. And on this end here, I'll put a 3/8 tenon about a 1/2 inch long for mounting into the top disc. Then I'll turn the top disc. A couple ways to do this is I can mount this between the tailstock and the jaws, and put a recess in, and then turn around and do it. That's my process. Another way to do it would be to put a glue block on, and I'll explain that a little later on. Once we have that done, then I go to the very top finial piece. Again, make a 3/8 tenon on one end, turn the shape to whatever shape we desire. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as the others. Usually I try and put a little bit of a knob on the end so that if somebody picks it up, they can pick it up and their hand won't slide off the end. Then once all the pieces are turned, we go back to mounting the base piece in the chuck. Then we take the napkin cone and install it in the tenon that's been made for it. Then we take the stem and mount it inside. We can take this piece, mount it on the 3/8, mount this one on the 3/8 on the other end side of this, and put a little pressure on it with the tailstock, and when the glue is set, everything's done. So that's a rough explanation of what we're going to do, and I'll get set up here and we'll start turning one. One way to mount the top piece onto the chuck is to take your 1-inch piece of material and put a glue block on it. I could jam it between the tail center and the headstock, but some people may not be comfortable doing that. So another way to do it is to, you've already got the center on this block when you cut the circle or mark the circle out. I have just a temporary scrap of wood that I turned a tenon on so that I can use it as a glue block, and I'll put it on here and glue it on. But in order to find center, I drilled a hole in the center of the temporary waste block, and I put my awl through it, so I've got the point here. Now I can take the awl and find it on the center point like that, set this down, and basically this is let's see, that camera angle, this camera angle might give you a better angle. So now this is basically centered. I can take my glue gun and I can put a shot of hot glue on here and another shot of hot glue on here and another piece of hot glue on here. Now I'll let those set up for a few minutes. That just holds it on the center point, so that now I can actually get around. When this is set up, I can put a little better bead all the way around. I just wanted something to hold it in place. So now that I've got this kind of held in place, I can take my glue gun and I can go around and put a bead of glue all the way around the glue block. And I have found that gluing it on this way is lots strong enough for the work that we need to do. There. So now we've got a piece of wood glued onto the end of the workpiece, and this can fit into a chuck, so we can spin this up real nicely. We can make a recess on this end for mounting in the chuck, so we can finish off the bottom end and the top end. We can have this all finished and have a way to mount the piece when we want to turn it around. Okay, so I'm back and we've got my chuck mounted in on the lathe, and I'm going to use a woodworm screw. We'll get this woodworm screw set in here. Make sure it's latched in properly. And I notice that the screw is actually sticking out a little bit, sticking out quite a ways, and that's a little more than I want to screw into the wood. It makes it hard to handle. So I'm going to put a disc on here, which will still give me roughly ½ an inch of thread, and then we'll screw this on. Well, that's on nice and tight. This disc is nice and tight, and we're ready to turn it. First thing I normally do is I'll straighten the outside, and here's when I I start thinking about the design that it's going to be, I'm going to probably put a bit of an OG shape on the outside. I don't have to finalize it right now, but I'm going to first take it round, face this off, and then I'm going to put a recess in so then I can turn around and finish the top however I want. So the first thing we'll do is make it round. Face shield on. Bowl gouge out of the line of fire and start it up. So that's got it almost round. There's a little bit of a flap right here, so we'll make another pass. Yeah, that's looking nice and round. We got a little bit of a feature here. Hopefully that will add some character to the top. Now I just need to flatten the bottom to get this nice and flat and put a recess in. Take a look and see what that looks like. Oh, we got a little bit of a flap there, so we'll take a little bit more. Okay, that looks like that's got a nice flap. We're going to put a recess in here and put the recess in. I generally use this this tool. It's got a bit of a shape to it so that even if the tailstock was in place, I can use it as a scraper and come in and put a dovetail and cut groove to mount it on the chuck. But because it's being acting like a scraper, I need to raise the tool rest so it's cutting a little above center. And we'll go from there. That should be enough for the dovetail. And now we'll just take the center out. On the bottom, when I make the recess, I make the recess so I can expand the chuck into it. And I always like to take the center portion away so that it's relieved from the face of the base. But I don't like to take it real nice and flat because it's always nice to have something for people that fit things upside down. They'll have something to look at. And so I like to leave a little bit in there and kind of put a couple of features on it, like that. And it just gives a little bit of interest for people that actually do turn it upside down. And one of the things I like to do too is I can also define it by using this and put a groove in here get another little groove in here. And it just adds a little bit of different detail so that if somebody happens to take the object and turn it upside down, they can see you thought about it. So I'm just going to finish this off a little bit so that it's no sharp edges. Okay, so that's basically finished on there. It's round on this side, perfectly round. I can reverse this in a chuck and turn the top side. Okay, now we've got this, we can finish the top side and shape this whatever shape that we desire to make the base of the napkin holder. I typically like to try and do a bit of an OG shape, but a person can do whatever their heart desires. And we will drill a 3/4 inch hole for the spigot mount there. So we'll slow the speed down, crank it up, lock the tailstock, and we'll drill a reset. Only go in about an inch, 3/4 to an inch. Not because I'm going to bottom the tenon out in there. I want a place for glue to go. If I size my tenon perfectly to the hole, then their glue has to have someplace to go. So I always try and make the hole deeper than the tenon will be. Okay, so now I can just do a little bit of fine tuning on the outside of this, and we're going to call it good. So that's basically the base. It's got the mortise in it to accept the napkin cone. The bottom's got a recess so we can rechuck it whenever we want. We need to do a little more sanding on this later, but for all intents and purposes, that's a base. The next piece I'll do is I'll do the cone piece. It's going to fit. This piece of block is going to get modified so that it fits inside of here, and will end up being the cone for the napkins to fit in. And I can do that by doing it between centers. So I normally just guess for the center of this. I can decide whether I want to put it on the cross grain or the end grain, and I think I'm going to put it on the end grain. So I'll just kind of roughly get what I think might be a close to center. This doesn't have to be exact because we're going to turn it around anyhow. And again, these are just blanks that are blanks of offcuts that we're kicking around. So you can even laminate these pieces up if you wanted to make a piece to do this. I've got a little sizing tool here. It's just a 3/4 inch wrench, and I've sharpened one side, and I use that for gauging my tenons, and it actually helps cut them to final size. So before I go to do a bunch of shaping on this, I want to make sure that my tenon is fitted to the hole it's going to fit in. There's nothing worse than spending a bunch of time machining a piece and getting all the nice work into it, and then finding out that when you go to fit the tenon, you make a mistake and the tenon is like this. The tenon's way too loose. So I goofed up by taking too much off. So not the end of the world. This piece is long enough. I'll just put a tenon on the other end and try it again. Again, the dimensions of this piece here are not critical. As long as it holds the end of the napkin, that's fine. So I just went ahead and just used the wrench in one section here so that we'd be able to see whether or not the wrench and the hole is the right size. So, and there again, this is, I must have made a mistake and grabbed the wrong bit. I'll verify. Oh, this bit's, for whatever reason, the hole is not exactly what I thought it should be. So I'm just going to fit the rest of this tenon down to the hole rather than measure it with the wrench. So what I did there is I just took, I made a tenon, or a taper on the tenon, and I'm going to set this in the hole here and see if I can burnish a mark, and it'll show me how close I am. And it looks like the end of the taper is just about perfect for the hole. So I've put a little burnish mark on there now. I can see where the burnish mark is, and I'll just take that tenon down to the burnish mark, and we should be fine. Trial and error. It's not a race, so it's just that whatever time it takes to do it, that's fine. If it takes more time, we're sneaking up on it, we're pretty close, and I can see a good burnish mark there, so I'm really close. I'll take a couple of more cuts off of that. So we'll try this again here. There, that looks like we're getting really close. I'm close on the end, I just need to extend it a bit. Still just a little bit tight. There we go. That's the fitting. That's the fit we want. We want to be able to have this in and just twist it in and it bottoms out. That's great. This is recessed just ever so slightly. This is ever so slightly, and I'm going to do the same here. so that when these two come together, they'll blend in nicely. Okay, so that's the tenon that I need to maintain. This one is going to go away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape this bottom section of the outside, and then I'm going to reverse it and grab this tenon in a chuck, and then I can hollow the inside. Okay, so that's the cone. We'll just grab it with the small jaws here, and we'll take the center out and taper the inside. So when we taper the inside, we want to try and get it as close to a 45 as possible. So what I did is I made this little jig, and this little jig is nothing more than just a piece of just a piece of wood. And I made sure that this corner is 90 degrees. And I put a pencil mark on there so I know which corner is the actual corner. And as I'm hollowing this out, I'll just fit this in here, and this will tell me when I'm on 45 degrees. It's just a simple square corner, and every little bit helps. And so this is end grain hollowing, so we can go ahead and do it we can do it comfortably with a spindle gouge. Tighten it up a little bit. For whatever reason, it seems like it wanted to wobble a little. Well, I guess that shows that the wobble was a little more serious than I thought. I'll go find the piece and we'll catch you on the flip side. Okay, we're back. We're going to try this again. We'll put a little bit of divot on there, and I'll do use a drill bit to give us a center hole. So now that I started the hole, I'm going to take my little test gauge here and put it in on one side, and I'll slide it in, and I can tell on this side that I'm touching in the bottom and not on the top. So that means I need to take more out of the center and the bottom. Now it's touching on the tops and it's not touching in the center, so that means I got to take a little bit off the outside. Basically, I like to sneak up on it until I get it 45, and then as I'm reducing the wall thickness, I just stay on the same angle. Now we'll get a fresh tool. That's starting to look pretty good. So I'm just going to take the wall thickness down now, stay on the same angle, and we'll go from there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now I just need to make a 3/8 hole into the bottom. I could go to the drill press for this, but I've got a 3/8 bit here and I'm only going in a short distance, so I'm going to just do it by hand. There we go. Well, that's the second part completed. Now you can probably see that the napkin stand is starting to take shape. There's the base and the little cup section for the napkins to put into. The next step now would be to turn a spindle that'll fit in the turn this spindle to fit into here with a 3/8 tenon on either end. And again, I just eyeball this in, so we're taking it down, so it doesn't really matter if it's not perfectly centered. I just take a guess at it. And the more times you do this where you take a guess at it, the better you get, so it's not the end of the world if it doesn't. One of the ways I like to do this is I turn it around so that I can put this in the chuck. I've got center marks on either end now, but I can take the center punch out of, or the center out of here. And because I'm trying to go down to a 3/8, I don't have a 3/8 tail center, or I don't have a 3/8 drive center. So I do it this way. I grab the shaft in the chuck, and now by just putting the point of the tailstock in to give it some stability, I can turn this down to a 3/8 tenon, and I can pre-shape this portion down to round. And then once I have the tenon on here, I turn this piece around and I'll do the same on the other end. Then I can go back between centers and shape whatever I want in the center. Again, I've got my little trusty sizing tool here. It's just a 3/8 wrench. It's been sharpened on one side. Set it on the tool rack and push it in, and it will size the tenon to 3/8 of an inch. And then to try that out, I'll take this and see if it'll fit. Looks like it's going to fit. Okay, one of the things we need to do now is on this end of the tenon, we need to put a 45 on it so that it can seat up with the inside. The inside of this is on 45. So when this tenon is in the hole, we want this section to be in contact with a 45 degrees. So we'll cut a 45-degree chamfer on that spindle. And again, I just use my trusty little or a piece of wood here that's cut at 90 degrees, and when I look at it, I sight down one side and see that it's not quite there. So judging at this, I need to take a little bit more off the outside edge here. Well, looks like I took a little too much off, so take a little more off the center. That's about it. Now we can shape this down. Get this nice and straight. Now that this is straight and this is small enough to fit inside the chuck, so when I turn this around this way, you can grab it here, bring this up to center, tighten this up, and we'll do the same. We'll put a 3/8 tenon on this end. So now we can take this out of the chuck and put my step drive back in. And we don't need a lot of pressure on there because now all we're doing is shaping the outside. So now we're between centers, we can shape the spindle however we like. Okay, so that's the next piece done. So we now have a base, we have a cup holder, the piece with a 45. That'll fit in there nicely. So we're coming right along. Now that we're working between centers, I generally turn the top section first because this is just going to be a kind of a finial with a 3/8 tenon on one end. So basically do the same thing. I turn this round, get it round so that I can turn around and hold this in the chuck so that I can do the finished turning on the 3/8 tenon, and then I can put it back between centers and shape the finial however I want, and then part off the top or cut it off with the bandsaw later. Looks like I'm going to be able to cut the tenon on centers here because my tailstock's not pushed right in. We'll see. Looks like we're successful. So now I can go ahead and finish turning the top however I want. I think I'll use a screw on this and we'll I think I'll make the top about there. Okay, so that's going to be the top piece. So we have the base, we have the cup for the napkins, we have the spacer. We're going to make the top piece. This top finial will be fitting on the top into the 3/8 bore or hole that's going to be in the top disc. So all we need to do now is make the top disc. Making the top disc is my process might be a little different than some people. I generally just do a pressure grab against the chuck and put a small tenon on the or recess in the bottom so I can grab it with an expansion chuck. So I'll grab another chuck. So again, we've got this in between centers, and I can turn it around and put a recess. Okay, we'll see if we can change chucks and grab it on the bottom end. Okay, so we're expanded into the recess. We can now smooth off the top of this. And what we want to do now is we want to smooth off the top of this, and then we're going to mark off where the slots and the center holes are going to be for the napkins. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put a good center mark on here. So I'll use my tailstock and bring it up and push it in. I have a good center mark. And now I'm going to flatten this face off so we have a nice smooth surface to draw on. So now what we want to do is we want to take a pencil, we want to mark off a 2-inch circle. So basically I'm going to go to the center and put a pencil mark on 1 inch. And we'll just run a circle all the way around. And now what we want to do is we want to bring the tailstock or the tool rest up so it's right on center. We're very close to it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to mark off the holes for the slots that we're going to do. We have to drill holes in this 2-inch circle, 12 holes, so that we know how to register the cut marks. And we'll do that by using the index function on this lathe. Okay, so I started at the 0 point, and I could probably mark on both sides, but if this isn't perfectly level, it might be out that little bit. So what I end up doing is I take it, I've got a 24 hole indexer on here, so I'll go to the next hole, number 2, and I'll put a pencil mark on this. Then I'll go to number 4, put a pencil mark. Number 6, pencil mark. Number 8, put a pencil mark. And 10. 12. 14. 16, 18, 20, 22, and then I always go back to 0 just to check to make sure that I'm right on the money, and I am. Okay, so we've successfully marked off 12 napkin slots, and what I do now is I'll take the center punch, and I'll just go on every one of these pencil marks, and I'll center punch Okay, so I've got those center punched and marked, and now what we'll do is we'll take that to the drill press, and we'll drill 1/8 inch hole on each one of these marks. So I'll take this to the drill press, I'll drill the holes, and then I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so there's the hole with or the disc with the 12 holes on it. Now what we want to do is we want to be able to taper this outside so that we can get it to finish size that we want, and round over the edge here, and then we'll put pencil marks on it and take it to the bandsaw. Okay, so one of the things I'd like to do before I take it to round this right off, I want to be able to finish this bottom off a little bit nicer than what it is. And because I'm going to be tapering this edge off, I'm actually going to take, I've got a big set of number 3 jaws, I'm going to put a tenon on here, because then I can grab it with a big chuck, or a bigger chuck, this way, and then I can finish the bottom off really nice and flat and smooth and sanded, and then I can turn around and grab it this way again and finish off the top curve. So I'll do that right now. So these are number 3 jaws on a stronghold chuck. And that allows me now to get to the bottom, and I can finish the bottom off, finish the inside of here off, and sand it and get it ready for final finishing. Now we'll mount it back on the smaller chuck. This is a Talon chuck with number 1 jaws. And so now we're going to take this and we're going to taper these this face down to maybe 1/4 of an inch on the surface here, and from the center just taper it down, make a nice gentle radius, and then we'll take it over to the bench and mark it up so we can get it ready for the bandsaw. Okay, I'm going to take this over to the my little chuck that I have mounted for holding this so I can do the pencil marks on it. We'll come back when I get that ready. So I've got this little swivel chuck base mounted, and I just clamped it down to a table here on the tool rest. So what I can do is I can mount my chuck on here. Okay, so what I do now to mark these off is I put a 1/8 inch drill bit in here, because that's what the size of the hole was, and I'll put another 1/8 inch drill bit here. And then I'll take a flexible ruler and I'll lay the flexible ruler up against the two drill bits, and we'll draw a pencil line. And then I'll go on the other side of the two drill bits. Okay, so we go like that. So basically what we end up with is two straight lines there. Then we move the drill bit to the next hole. And do the same thing. We just line up the straight edge with the bits, and we draw the line, and we continue all the way around until all 12 of them have the pencil marks on. And then we take this piece over to the bandsaw, and I have a jig set up to saw these on the bandsaw, and so when I come back we'll show you how that works. Okay, so on the bandsaw I've got this little sled. I can pop this on, well, that's size on size, but what I normally do now is I line this up on this piece of the sled will ride against the fence, and we'll go on the inside of the pencil mark. So we want this to line up with the inside of the hole. Now theoretically, with this being on center, I should be able to make this cut, rotate, and just make all the 12 cuts on one side. And then I'll move the sled over 1/8 of an inch or so, and we'll make the cuts on the other side. 12 slots cut out. Now we can move back over to the swivel vise, and we can do some sanding. Now we're back here on the swivel vise, and we'll remount this. We can remount this on the chuck. And now we just go ahead and take some sandpaper. This thing is held fairly good. We take some sandpaper and we just go through and polish up each of these grooves. A little bit tedious, but we do both sides, and then flip it. You can do the underside as well. And you don't want to watch me sanding all of these, but I'll sand all 12 of these and put it back on the lathe and spin it a bit, polish it up, sand it up, and we'll be ready to assemble. So basically, to give you an idea of what we've got now, is we've got the base, we've got the cone for the napkins to fit into, we've got the separator, we've got the napkin holder disc. Oh, I just have to open that hole up to 3/8, and we've got the top finial. So I'll finish fitting this hole to the finial and the stem, and we'll have a finished project. I'll come back when I get that done. There, it's always nice to be able to sneak up on these so that the fits are nice and tight, and it takes a few times to sneak up on it, but the old adage is you can take wood off but you can't put it back on. So I always spend the time to make sure I just take off enough to get a real nice fit, and I still need a little room for glue. So I'm going to take just a little bit more off of each one of these, and like I say, take your time and get a good fit, and you'll be more successful. There we go, real nice snug fit, room for glue, but it's just a nice twist fit, so that'll be fine. There we go, another nice snug fit. So now we've got these pieces fitting together, and we can take this piece off or part it off. But we're basically ready to assemble this now. And what I like to do when I assemble these is I like to assemble them on the lathe so that they stay nice and straight. So I'm going to put a chuck on the lathe, and we'll glue this baby up. Okay, we'll take all these parts, take them all apart. And we'll just start by putting a little glue in here and just assemble them as we go. Okay, and for glue, I like to use Type Bond. This particular one is Type Bond translucent. It just dries clear, so any little bit of a squeeze out doesn't seem to cause much of a problem because it dries clear. I can use Type Bond 3, Type Bond 2, Type Bond Original. I just elected to use Type Bond translucent for this one. And I'm going to put a little more glue on the tenon. And this particular tenon has a 45 on here, so we'll make sure we get glue on the 45 as well. Put a lot on the tenon. It'll squeeze in there. We'll put some on here. And rotate that on there. And we'll bring the tailstock up and line everything up so that everything is centered on the lathe. Put a little pressure on it. And bring everything together. Just put a little pressure on it to keep it tight. And rotate these a little bit. And this glue does dry nice and clear. I just like to take the excess off before it gets hard. There we go. Now we'll leave that set for a few minutes, and once the glue sets up a little bit, we can hold it in the lathe. We can finish sanding all of the grooves on here. So we can sand each of these grooves, get them nice and smooth, sand each side, and basically we'll have a finished product. So there we go, there we have it. I'll part this off after I'm done sanding everything up. Just part this off and finish the end by hand. But there you have it, one napkin holder. One of the interesting things about these grooves is when you fold a napkin in half and slide it in, if it appears to be a little bit loose, then you just take the very edge of the napkin and fold it again so it's a little thicker, and then the friction will hold the napkin in place. And we've tested these out with cloth napkins, works perfect, and for paper napkins it works awesome as well. So that's one of the next batch. I'll be making these for Christmas presents this year. And I have to give a shout out to Donald Smith from the UK, who presented this at one of the Lancaster coffee hour meetings, and he graciously sent me his instructions on how his process worked. And I modified his process a little bit to fit the tools that I have and the way I do things, but I got to give him a shout out for the idea. These have been really popular. We love them. They work great. They hold napkins even in a breeze. They'll hold the napkins on the table where they need to be. So yeah, enjoy. Have fun. Thanks a lot for watching.